missed Friday the 13th by this much.
This much.
This much. Friday, November 12th, Just Baseball show. Jack McMullen, Peter Apple. Wasn't it nuts when the Ravens beat the Dolphins by 35 last night?
Yeah, it's probably what's going to happen. And as you know, we always check in on the MLB, not even MLB best bets anymore. The NFL best bets on Just Gridiron fans on TikTok.
Yeah.
I got Dolphins +8.
Wow.
When you hear that tomorrow and the Ravens won 48-0.
Wait, hold on. How I'm feeling. Not yet, Aram. What'd you say, Pete?
What do you mean? I said when the Ravens probably beat the Dolphins by 48, you can come back to this episode and say, wow, what an idiot. But when the Dolphins win, come back to this episode and say, wow, what a genius.
Yeah, Aram, you said you were here too?
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know I was here because you just said Peter Apple and then got straight into the football stuff.
Yeah, sorry, man. How was your Whole Foods chicken earlier today?
It was good. Is that the punishment for delaying recording by 10 minutes? Is that you don't introduce me?
I think so. I was actually going to delay introducing you by 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's fair. But the irony in that is you actually owe the opposite to me on these episodes because you lost a bet. And you're actually supposed to be nice. You're actually supposed to be nice to me on these episodes.
I said one episode. So
and it hasn't happened yet.
The Monday episode of the Just Baseball show, I'm going to be nice to you. So when you listen to the Just Baseball show on Monday, every point you make, I'm going to precede my rebuttal and or agreement with something very nice about you. So I'm going to spend the weekend. I'm going to open up OneNote on my laptop and I'm going to type out everything that I love about you, Aram. And I'm just going to whip through it on Monday.
It's going to be like that SpongeBob episode where he just writes the THE very fancy. And
you guys need to explain this bet again. You guys need to explain the bet for all those who may not know.
So
I'm a believer. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's how it went. Aram and I had a separate text thread going where we were talking about television ratings. And I said, every single live event on television is down. Once COVID hit, right, you thought the TV ratings were going to boom. They dropped off a cliff because everybody started streaming. And aside from select games, you see the NFL, their ratings going up. MLB's regular season, it went up. But I was thinking, just with the trends in television and viewership, World Series ratings were going to be down. And
television ratings, not just overall people watching it.
No, just overall television ratings were going to be down because they have been down across the board since COVID hit. Nobody has gone back to live television. They're all streaming. Yeah. And I bet Aram that the World Series was going to average under 9 million viewers on a per game basis. It was about 10.5. So Aram won by 1.5 million. He smoked me. So because of that, I need to say nice things to Aram every time I make a point on Monday's episode.
But this is a pretty good episode. Today, we're doing mock trades. Aram cooked up 5 beast ones on justbaseball.com. You can read the full article there. And we also got to fill out our ballots. The MVP, the Cy Young, the Rookie of the Year, the Manager of the Year award. We were saying that we were going to go over the Gold Gloves, but kind of already happened. And I don't love the Gold Glove discussion that much because I don't know how they're rating them. I really don't. I mean, are they looking at all the numbers? It doesn't really seem like it.
Aram, can you retell the story that Jeff Conine gave you about Gold Gloves?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they know how they're rating it, to be honest. Right? And I keep mixing it up. It's not Palmeiro, right? It was who was it again?
It was Palmeiro.
It was Palmeiro. Okay, that's what I thought. So for those who don't know the story, and Jeff told this on Outside the Box because we were talking about the Gold Glove Award, and he's like, in theory, I love it. It's fun. It's like the all defense team, like in the NBA. The problem is it's all just it's the most driven by narrative of any award because you can't even conceptualize it with stats that much. And where he hit his tipping point was when Rafael Palmeiro only played, what was the exact number, Jack? It was 23 games or 36. It was sub 40 games at first base.
I'm finding it right now.
Okay. So while you said that, he DH'd 85% of his starts and won the Gold Glove at first base.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Like that's almost like seeing how far you can push it to invalidate the award without people noticing. Like, how do you have a DH win the first base? What was the exact number, Jack?
Yeah. As a 34-year-old with the Texas Rangers in 1999, Rafael Palmeiro won the Gold Glove having started 28 games at first base and 128 games as the DH.
How does that happen? It's
ridiculous.
The worst. That might be the worst thing to ever happen to baseball. And that's saying a lot. It's up
the
there.
worst. There's been some bad things, including an impending lockout that we're dealing with. But the Palmeiro Gold Glove is where we draw the line.
Bro, it could walk out. It could walk out till 2025, and I'd still put that Palmeiro thing first.
This sport hits crisis mode. This sport hits crisis mode once every 2 weeks, and this is the worst thing to happen to baseball.
The Palmeiro Gold Glove, the ultimate scandal.
I wake up in a sweat every single night.
Well, Aram, you have some hammers of trades.
Yeah.
And you can find the full article on justbaseball.com. It's labeled 5 MLB blockbuster trades to spark the hot stove. And these, Aram, you also like to preface this, these are trades that you would love to see happen, not necessarily I'm predicting that these are the exact trades that will happen over this offseason.
Of course not. I wanted to find the balance between like, oh, I'm just going to trade everybody's best player in a mega deal. And also, this is the most realistic, boring trade possible. Like, these are all trade candidates, very high probability trade candidates, aside from maybe Gabriel Moreno, just because I had to trade him to the Marlins. As I said, I want to see this. So I put my little personal touch in there. But
I like it.
These are all trade candidates that will likely be moved, but obviously there's a long list of suitors. And I really just focused on the package because I wanted to help serve a purpose of trying to conceptualize for people where I think their trade value is. And I think that's a really big takeaway from the article too.
Aram, real quick, before you try and solve the Marlins catching situation, it looks like Jorge Alfaro is really figuring his swing out.
Really figuring it out.
Yeah,
they're a utility guy.
Well, they're going, him and Isan Diaz are going to the same hitting coach. And I'll tell you, there was a video that came out.
I'm their hitting coach.
Well, I wish I would take you. The video I saw on TikTok, that hitting coach had them working on with a hockey stick. They're working on a slap shot. Whatever that drill does, I'd love to know.
It's called being a dual sport athlete. Kyler Murray, Bo Jackson, ever heard of it?
Yeah, Alfaro could do it probably.
I mean,
if
an athlete.
If these guys, if he fixes those two guys, make him the president of the United States. I don't even care about hitting coach. You make him the commissioner, make him whatever he wants. That he said he's like, I'm a doctor basically of your swing is what he said in the video. Hell, man, like he is God on earth if he fixes those two guys.
Yeah. What did he say? I'm probably
it's so funny the Isan Diaz or Alfaro conversation with the Marlins. It makes me laugh every single time because they're two of the worst players to ever play in this game, I think.
they're up there.
Here's what this guy said to Alfaro. He said, what happens when you tear your UCL and you need Tommy John? You go to a doctor, right? What happens if your swing's off? You go to a hitting coach. If this doctor doesn't do a good enough job restructuring your UCL, whose fault is it? Is it yours or is it the doctor's? So if your hitting coach can't fix your swing, whose fault is it? Is it your fault or is it the hitting coach's? You're putting way too much pressure on the hitting coach there.
The best part about that, I hope we can like edit this audio into it somehow. Like Ben Bellotti, please edit that audio in because the best part about it is Alfaro's sitting there looking like if a look could kill somebody, that's what Alfaro had going on. And also he knew he was being recorded, the guy. So he was like, yo, record this real quick. I'm going to just spit some absolute bars and just thought he went off there. Like he thought it was sick, but yeah, we got to put that video up.
And before we get into the trade, shout out Ben Bellotti. He's been running our Instagram. He is a stud. He's writing on our site. He even made picks during the postseason. Ben, if you're listening, your picks didn't do that well, but it's all about, it's all about trying and it's all about next year. And it's not gambling advice anyway. So who even cares?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's break into trade number one. Matt Olson lands in Yankee Stadium. The Yankees get Matt Olson, the first baseman for the Oakland A's, and the Athletics get shortstop prospect Oswald Peraza, starting pitcher Davy Garcia, another starter Luis Medina, and a somewhat catcher, just more of a bat in Austin Wells, their first round pick in 2020 at the end of the first round. I love this package. I've also seen that due to the 40-man roster, I guess some of those configurations, they want to put like a Voit, a Domingo Germán in that deal. But if I'm the A's, I just simply don't want those players. I mean, Voit is a good player.
Of course.
Voit is a good player. I just don't know if you trade Matt Olson, that's the guy then you just want in return. That doesn't make sense.
Unless you plan on flipping Voit, in which you could do,
you could do, and you're the A's.
Put him in the middle.
History's doing that.
Put him in the middle of your order and makes you a little bit more competitive, at least on paper, and then you flip him, I guess. But if it lessens your prospect return, it's not worth it.
So let's talk some of these prospects. Like, who is Oswald Peraza? Well, first, he's a shortstop prospect that was always looked at as a glove, but really came onto the scene this year with the bat and vaulted into the top 50 on our Just Baseball top 100 prospects.
I think just outside of the top 50, but like right on the brink. And that's a good spot to be, given that he was somebody that wasn't on the top 100 list anywhere going.
Not even close.
Season. And you have the glove still. Now you have the bat that has really played up, and he's got above average speed. He's really just a high floor dude. I know some A's fans are like, why do we want him if we have Nick Allen, who's the best defensive shortstop in the minors? But you don't really look at it that way. If you're a rebuilding team, you're just acquiring assets. And if you can acquire shortstops, you do it. You're not saying like, oh, it's not like Nick Allen's some can't miss guy too. He could easily be Nick Ahmed. And at that point, you're like,
Kevin Newman.
All right. Yeah. So like, who cares?
And Luis Medina is another guy that throws 102. We saw him in the Futures game down at Colorado at Coors Field. He had electric stuff, but I remember kind of looking over to you and being like, his 102 does not look like Cade Cavalli's 100. And when I say that, I mean Cade Cavalli's 100 actually looked harder than Luis Medina touching 102. It may not be that high a spin. That was just like from watching him up close. The stuff rings off the scoreboard, but do you think it's actually going to translate into getting outs against big leaguers?
Yeah, that was my only concern with the package. And I'm curious what Jack's thoughts are on this, because Oakland hasn't been great at developing pitchers as of late. It's been nice to see James Kaprielian kind of turn that corner, but that was just him, I think, getting healthy more than anything. Yeah, they haven't really developed guys. We saw Luzardo struggle and they gave up on him and they sent him out to Miami. I really haven't seen them do that other than like the journeyman or like kind of quadruple A guy that takes it to the next level.
Sean Manaea, I guess, could be that guy, but he's also 29 now.
Yeah, it's what I'm saying. It's like usually it's like these older guys that finally figure it out a little bit, but they don't really develop the volatile prospect. And I don't know if they would want both Davey and Medina. That's the only thing. But I mean, you can adjust it as such. I just thought the upside of Davey and Medina is immense, and they're both close to big league ready, if not big league ready. Obviously, Medina's another year and a half out, but Davey could be up there now if he works out the kinks.
Yeah, I don't know how much you need to tinker with Davey Garcia, because I think Davey Garcia he's not a finished product, but he's an MLB ready product. And I think he's close to getting finished. And if, Oakland does have faith in their pitching coach and, their coaching staff on the pitching side, I think Davey is just a few short tweaks away from being a legitimate major league starter now. With Medina, I don't think you need to create something new with him. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel with Medina. And also, if you like this discussion, make sure you go back and listen to the Wednesday pod where we really dive into these guys. But Medina, I think 102 is 102. And even
it's true. But he was getting hit in the Futures game. That was the thing. And I like him also with Devi. Devi's fine.
I'm higher than you.
I'm just not the biggest fan of his. Yeah, I like him, and I hope the best for him, and I hope he stays with New York, or if we use him for a trade piece and he ends up having a nice career. I just watch him, and I don't know really how he's going to get hitters out. I think he walks a lot of guys. I don't think his fastball is necessarily looks kind of easy to hit, looks kind of flat. There's not much velo there, and he has the big bender. But I assume if you just sit off speed, it just doesn't seem like it's that hard to hit this guy. But he is young, and he's 22. He is 22. So give him a little bit of time. But from what I've seen, I just haven't been really floored at all.
Yeah.
So we can get into number 2. This is another good one. The Seattle Mariners land an ace in Luis Castillo. The Mariners get Luis Castillo, Mike Moustakas, and Cash. And the Reds, they get young pitching prospects Emerson Hancock and Matt Brash, along with center fielder Jake Fraley, who I have a personal relationship with Jake Fraley, because Jake Fraley has either saved or lost me so many bets on the Mariners by just robbing home run after home run. Can he hit?
Kind of.
That's to be seen. But can he rob home runs with the best of them? Like I've never seen. So.
Jack, yell at me. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with the trade?
No, I think Seattle gets the guy they need at the front of the rotation. My only problem with it. Oh, wait. Okay. So Seattle gets their ace. What?
I have problems with it too.
Okay.
But for only one reason.
Seattle gets their ace, and they also get a power bat you can plug in immediately.
Yes.
And you hold on to George Kirby.
Yes.
You're giving away a potential ace and a potential 2 with some of the nastiest stuff. Emerson Hancock can be an ace. Matt Brash can be the filthiest 2. Like, think Freddie Peralta. Like, that's what Matt Brash can turn into.
Yeah.
Jack, you just said everything I wanted to say. I like Emerson Hancock and Matt Brash too much. They're so good, and I think both of them could be as good as a Luis Castillo. And if you're the Mariners, is that like that's the guy? That's the guy that you're trading Hancock and Brash for.
I mean, Luis
Castillo, go package those and give them to Cleveland for Bieber.
Pete, you're gonna let Aram rebut
those two?
No,
you're not getting Bieber with those two. Like not
more, but
you're gonna need a lot more. I just think. Well, Luis Castillo was so good in the second half too, after a disastrous first half, and I think he got back to who he is. Brash, which is funny. I just had a random flashback of me giving you guys the whole Brash pitch like a couple months ago, and people were like started tweeting at us Brash highlights, and they went pretty big. His slider is otherworldly, but Brash is a dude that has had some arm issues in the past. He's going to be 24 almost by the start of the season. He's only pitched 100 innings total in his minor league career at this point between the two seasons, 2019 and 2021. Yes, we've seen some really good things, but there's still a good deal of reliever risk there. You get to keep Kirby. You get to keep Brandon Williamson, who I would prefer to keep over Brash, which is why I made it Brash. And I figure that if you're going to get Luis Castillo, you know, the Reds are going to be asking for a couple main guys. I'm personally preferring to keep the lefty in Williamson, because what other lefties do the Mariners have? That was the big thing for me. Like Justice Sheffield, I'm not excited about him. We love Kirby. We love Hancock. You know, we love all of those big righties, but Williamson's like the only lefty that has that like middle rotation upside. And if you trade him away, now you've got no southpaw in your system. I don't usually like to cater your system towards what you have and don't have, but like that's a big need to have a lefty in your system, especially when you don't really have a lefty at the big league level outside of Marco Gonzalez.
So if Aram was a GM, he would just go grab a bunch of 6'5" right-handed pitchers, center fielders, and shortstops and work from there.
Not a bad decision. But Aram, about these prospects, like you'll tell me, and this conversation actually makes sense for the next trade, but also with this one. Like you'll tell me about a prospect, and then I'll be like, awesome. I'll go look at video and be like, I come to you, I'm like, yes, this guy is the best. Then you trade him. And you don't even value the way that you were like telling me. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are we doing here? I just watched Matt Brash's slider. What, now you're gonna trade him?
You're like, you just sold him. You just sold me on him, and now you're trading.
It's now he's gone.
It's very true. It is very.
And this breaks into the third trade, which I didn't get pissed at you, but I told you, I was like, they cannot trade this catcher for this pitcher.
This one wouldn't happen. This is the one that honestly is ridiculous. We can flip flop it for the guy that's actually going to get traded here, but we can still talk about it.
We can still talk about it because it is fun and who cares? The Blue Jays send catching for Marlins pitching. The Blue Jays get starting pitcher Pablo Lopez on the Marlins, but the Marlins get young catching prospect and a top 10 guy in the Just Baseball Top 100, Gabriel Moreno and Kevin Smith. When I saw that, you're telling me Gabriel Moreno is next up in catching position, future all-star, unbelievable bat, a top 10 guy in our system.
Yep.
And then what you do is you trade him for a 3 on the Marlins. Yes. Is Pablo Lopez a good pitcher? Actually, yes.
He's the best 3 in baseball. But he's not a 2.
Freddie Peralta is a 3 currently.
Freddie Peralta's a 2.
Freddie Peralta's a 2.
But he's a 3 in the rotation.
But he's a 2.
I see what you're saying.
How many rotations would Pablo Lopez be a 3 in?
I mean, we can have this conversation all day.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like, but I'm just curious. Like that's something that we'd have to answer. Like I think there's a lot of rotations where he could be, a solid 2. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, he's not an ace, but the Marlins aren't trading Sandy. Sixto is damaged at this point. I think he can come back and be good, but he's damaged goods at this point.
Sixto is the Barry Bonds of pitching. I stand by him.
What does that mean?
It means that he's going to put together one season that Baseball Reference breaks on, like just full of everything.
Aram explained this to me perfectly. How do you have that great of stuff and you aren't striking out low A, double A hitters? How?
Brewstar.
Brewstar's a reliever.
Yeah, if he ends up like Brewstar, I'm going to put my head through a wall.
Like then what? He's a 7th inning guy who just chucks. I mean, I like Brewstar. He's a good reliever, but like that's what you're getting from your at one time your best pitching prospect in Sixto. Sanchez?
I'm pretty sure they both have similar work ethics. But so on the Moreno thing, I really think that there's no way he goes anywhere. Obviously, we just saw Morosi, which is so funny. John Morosi, who's been all over it, by the way.
I love
Morosi's been on it. And Morosi said that Alejandro Kirk has been discussed or could be discussed with the Marlins. So, you flip-flop that with Kirk, then I don't think the Marlins have to give up Pablo, right? Like then you could give up maybe Eliezer Hernandez and a prospect. If you're trading Pablo for Alejandro Kirk, I find that one hard to justify because Kirk is good, but he's also 5'8", 265 pounds with some iffy defense. And like, I'm going to be honest, like if I'm a scout, right? Like if I'm as a prospect analyst, I'm watching a guy whose defense has slowed a little bit and I'm looking at him objectively being the largest man at his position. It doesn't help to move. Like that's something that I'm sure the Jays are wary of to a degree. Moreno is as elite as it gets. I mean, look at his numbers. That guy hits. Now he's showing that he can hit for power. The defense looks really good in the Arizona Fall League. So let's say it's Kirk. Can the Marlins get Kirk? I'll turn it back on you guys. Can the Marlins get Kirk without trading Pablo Lopez or Max Meyer?
Can the Marlins get Kirk without trading? Yeah. I would rather have Pablo Lopez and Max Meyer than Alejandro Kirk. I don't know if Alejandro Kirk is that good.
Really? You don't think he's that good? He hits.
All right. Yeah, he has some pop. Not really. I mean, I'm watching Yankees Blue Jays games. This guy doesn't scare me in the lineup, and I'm not seeing him behind the plate being so athletic and such a gret player. Like I like Moreno a lot more. Way more.
I just realized something. What if he's just Williams Astudillo? Oh my gosh.
La Tortuga.
Oh no.
I'm a spin it back for you. You replace Kim Nang for one day, and you get to make this trade if it is offered to you. Sandy Alcantara.
No. But just go ahead.
For Moreno and Nate Pearson.
Oh.
Jack, when you hear that, what do you think?
Yeah, Jack, what do you think?
If I'm the GM of the Marlins?
You replace Kim Nang for one day.
Here's my problem with this trade. I keep looking at it from the Blue Jays side because the Blue Jays are the one that are looking for immediate benefits, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting here saying like, okay, if you're the Marlins, can you get Kirk without giving up Meyer or Pablo Lopez? And I'm thinking, can you get Pablo Lopez without giving up Moreno? Like, you know what I mean?
Turn the tables. How they?
Yeah, I was turning.
Oh, the turntables.
Turn.
Yeah, that was a good Adele song.
That was an Office quote. I was actually using pop culture in a podcast for once.
The Office doesn't really count as pop.
See, we quoted something.
What do I get?
We quoted something that's actually funny, unlike the
Simpsons. Not this random show I haven't heard of.
Yeah,
like Succession or something.
Okay,
I've heard only good things about Succession.
To answer the question that you asked, Peter.
Yeah,
I think. Let's see. So if I took over for Kim Ng and I was offered Moreno and Nate Pearson for Sandy, I think I'm doing it.
I think I'm doing it too. It's weird because the Marlins have so much pitching. So maybe you don't do that if you're another team and Sandy's your guy, but I don't know.
What if it's like Moreno and like Groshans? Groshans and, maybe a filler, I'd be interested too, because Marlins just need bats so badly. I just can't trade Sandy because I think he's so valuable. I think he's arguably one of the most valuable arms in baseball at this point. When
He's
you go
a top
by
15
control,
pitcher.
and then you factor in control, age, durability. He's got to be one of the 10 easily, maybe better than that in terms of value of a player because of the contract situation too.
Totally.
But Gabriel Moreno is a franchise altering player at a premium position. I would do it. And then I think I'd go into a desert, unplug, and not answer anybody for like a month.
Okay,
And then,
hey, this would never happen, but would you go Sandy for Adley Rutschman straight up right now?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have to.
Because that shows you the need for a top flight catcher in baseball.
And yes,
it's like just 5 good catchers in baseball right now.
Yeah.
Like barely 5 that actually catch and hit.
Hard.
It's tough. It's really tough. I mean, Jeff, I was talking to Jeff Conan about it even on the college side, and he was saying finding good college catchers that can catch and hit is hard there too. So you can just imagine at the major league level how hard it is. So yeah, that was the most difficult trade. I do think that the Marlins are going to find a way to make it happen. Kim Ng did say that they're going to get players. So that was encouraging. She said we will try to get better any way we can get better. Very revealing quote. And we'll see where it goes from there. But I do know that they're going to do something. I think they're going to try to go get a catcher, maybe a Jacob Stallings, make it easier. But I would love to see them go crazy with the Jays and figure something out.
I mean, just think about catching in general. Henry Davis went number 1 over a guy like Jack Leiter.
Yep. Premium position.
Let's go to our 4th trade. The Mets pair Matt Chapman with Francisco Lindor. The Mets will receive Matt Chapman and Diolis Guerra. The Athletics get Mark Vientos, Khalil Lee, and Alex Ramirez. Mark Vientos is the main piece coming over in that deal. Why are you guys laughing at me?
Good job putting a little flavor on that, Peter, that lives in Manhattan and is just a white man.
I can't win with you because if I try to get the name right, I'm laughed at. If I don't try and get the name right, I'm an idiot. When do I win, Jack?
You win all the time. You win all the time.
All right, fine. That'll be my loss. But I don't care. That's the trade. But Mark Vientos is the main guy going over. He's the third base prospect with the Mets that would replace Matt Chapman. I could see this a little bit, Aram.
This is one of those that I actually
like this one.
I think it's a realistic possibility. Jack, what do you think before I have to defend it? Maybe I don't have to defend this one.
Yeah, I don't think you need to defend it. I don't think you need to defend it. A's are getting their prospects back that don't need to be, managed much because these are prospects that I feel like are far along. And then the Mets go and get Matt Chapman, who might implode, might boom, and I've got no idea. But that's who the Mets like. They like the incredibly volatile baseball player.
And the guarantee, though, is that you have the best defensive infield in baseball.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Didn't Matt Chapman hit like 212 last year?
I mean, he struck out all the time.
Yeah, he was. Matt, are you dealing with a hip thing all year? Probably doesn't help.
It does not help. He's still coming back off of that hip surgery. I think that he's going to be much better this year. I thought he looked better down the stretch. The last couple months, he was a little bit better, hit for more power. The glove is still as good as ever. I mean, this guy, you ignore 2020, and then obviously this was a bad year. But 2018, 2019, back-to-back 6 F4 seasons. I mean, that's elite.
That's elite.
It's not like he's 34. It's not like he's over the hill. I think that's a chance you got to take when you're trading away not even your best third base prospect. Right? Brett Beatty is your best third base prospect. Khalil Lee is not somebody that you absolutely need. And then a lottery ticket. I love Mark Vientos. I'm a big fan, but I'm keeping Brett Beatty instead. And I think the Mets have shown their preference towards Brett Beatty by giving him more of the reps at third. Yeah. And that's why I just think Vientos could be more expendable. But that's a guy you got to be pumped to get if you're Oakland, because the bat plays, even if he can't stay at third. That's a middle of the order potential 40 home run type of guy if it all works out. And I think it very well could.
Wow.
40's high.
40's high. He hits everything. I mean, he's got some of the top of the line raw power in all of professional baseball.
Your last trade hurts my brain.
The last trade is kind of sick. And I sent him Byron Buxton. I was like, you just got to put Buxton because I want to see Byron Buxton deals. So the last trade, the Phillies gamble on Byron Buxton's upside. The Phillies receive Byron Buxton and Jordan Gore. The Twins get, all right, is it Mick Abel or Mick Abel?
Abel.
Abel.
Yeah, I was going to say Abel, but like, I don't want my friends laughing at me. Hans Kraus, Johan Rojas, and Casey Martin. It's a big package. We mentioned Johan Rojas. We pulled him in one of our card breaks, which you can find on Twitch. And he's a really athletic player and could kind of be that high upside guy that goes back to the Twins for maybe the highest upside athletic guy that we have in our league.
No doubt. Jack, why does it hurt your brain and why are you laughing?
I just can't.
Yeah, you're laughing like makes me self-conscious.
I just couldn't stop laughing at Foolish Baseball's all MLB team submission. You ready?
Are you looking at that during the podcast?
Are you on your phone right now?
It just popped up.
It just popped up.
Foolish Baseball submitted his all MLB team. This is funny as hell. I just have to read this on the pod.
All right.
Ryan Mountcastle at first base.
Correct.
Trevor Story at short.
Incorrect.
I mean, Wilson Contreras at catcher. Mitch Haniger, Adam Duvall in the outfield with Adolis Garcia. Jose Barrios is a starting pitcher. I mean, it's
Wait, what is he doing?
Is he just so
mid?
funny.
But those guys aren't even mid, but
They just picked a bunch of B+ guys, not the A
Yeah,
guys.
not too bad where it's like obviously just a joke, but not an actual all MLB team either, just like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Not bad. I actually agree. Mountcastle is going to be on the all MLB team next year, so it's fine. But back on topic here, McMullen.
Sorry.
yeah, why does that hurt your brain?
Yeah, what hurts your brain about it?
It hurts my brain because I just think the Phillies system sucks.
It does suck.
I mean, they've got two guys, right?
I like Bryson Stott.
And Bryson Stott. I think that's it. So like it just hurts because I see all these names for the Phillies and I want to stop reading after Mick Abel because I'm like, these guys, I don't really have faith in anybody else. And, you know, have I given them the time? I don't know. But I just don't really have much faith in guys not named Abel or Stott right now.
So Hans Kraus just 23.
I was just going to say the Phillies farm system. I mean, remember when they had the number one pick and they got Mickey Moniak? Like they just haven't been that good at drafting. But shout out my boy Kevin Gowdy, pitcher in the Phillies from Santa Barbara. Keep firing.
Pretty smart. Pretty smart to go under slot with the first overall pick in the draft. Yeah, I mean, that was very smart. I didn't throw Moniak in this deal, but the angle here is that one, it's Dave Dombrowski, so whatever he has left, deplete it. But I think this is the kind of move where in Byron Buxton, he's still going to be expensive, but he's the most upside for cost, I guess. Like he's the only potential superstar that is attainable for the Phillies. I think it's the most simple way to say that because of the risk that limits his value. And I think the fact that the Twins are only willing to offer him $70 million kind of shows how much the injury risk is putting a lot of teams off. I really think that a lot of teams are too nervous to give anything up. That's crazy. And I think the Phillies, knowing that their system sucks, has to take this chance. Abel's a stud. I think he's going to be really good. He's electric. Johan Rojas, who honestly, like I was telling Peter this too earlier today, I was like, I think it's only fair. And this is the highest upside guy in the Philly system outside of, the two blue chippers. Stott has to be untouchable because they don't have a shortstop. But Johan Rojas is the most athletic player in their system. 70 grade runner, plus raw power, potentially a plus defender in center. I feel like it's only natural to have the most athletic player in the Philly system going to the Twins for maybe the most athletic player in baseball. That's where I look at it. And then, you throw in Casey Martin, who, whatever. He's a really good athlete too, but he's a lottery ticket. We'll see what happens. But I think there's a chance that deal could actually work because you are getting one blue chipper and big time upside in Rojas.
Yeah. All right. Want to move on to the awards?
Let's fill out the ballots.
Let's do it. We're gonna do
Let's
manager of the
fill
year.
out the ballots. The American League winner will be announced on November 18th. National League as well. Oh, no. Excuse me. The MVP awards will be announced on November 18th.
Yep.
The Cy Young awards will be announced on the 17th. Manager of the years on November 16th, and Rookie of the years on November 15th. So that's when you'll hear them actually called out. But we want to fill out our ballots before they're officially released.
Yep. We're going to go manager of the year, then rookie of the year, then Cy Young, then MVP. I'm going to give a quick rundown of each guy. And then you're going to tell me who you're voting for. Cool.
Jack, let's break into the manager of the year.
Let's start with the American League Manager of the Year. First candidate is Dusty Baker with the Houston Astros, our 72-year-old king. Dusty just made the second World Series appearance of his career, and he brought likability to the least likable team in Major League Baseball in 2021. This was Dusty's fifth straight full season managing a 90-plus win team. His last 2 years with Cincinnati, his 2 years with Washington, and now in his first full season with the Stros. So despite Bregman missing ample time, Verlander being non-existent, and no George Springer holding it down in center, the Astros were still inevitable in the AL West. Got Kevin Cash, too. His first 100-win season in year 7 in Tampa. He finished third in both 2018 and 2019. He's gunning for his second consecutive AL Manager of the Year award now. And then Scott Servais. After back-to-back losing seasons, Servais locked up his first 90-win season in 6 years as the Mariners skipper. Not only did they get to 90, but Servais guided the darling of Major League Baseball to one of the most enjoyable and competitive finishes to the season we've seen in recent memory. And I want to take you back to the deadline for just a brief moment, because Jerry Dipoto traded Kendall Graveman, maybe the best reliever in the American League at the time, to a division rival. The locker room was pissed. There was an obvious and heated disconnect between the clubhouse and the front office. And as the liaison between the two, Servais bridged the gap, saved the club from an implosion, and they were better down the stretch because of it. So your nominees for AL Manager of the Year: Dusty Baker, Kevin Cash, Scott Servais.
Can I start?
Yeah.
Kevin Cash is the winner of the American League Manager. What he did to win 100 games. Remember at the beginning of the season, the two best pitchers on the Rays were Tyler Glasnow and Ryan Yarbrough. Tyler Glasnow, done in the middle of the season due to Tommy John. Ryan Yarbrough left off the postseason roster because he just sucked so bad. His ERA was in the 5s. This was a team that all year, first, 26th in payroll. They don't have the type of talent that everyone else does, but they always just figure it out. Kevin Cash, they won 100 games this year. I like all the other options. I don't have a gripe if you say any other choice, but for me, I watch Kevin Cash all year. It's Kevin Cash for me.
I struggle to go with anybody other than Scott Servais. I mean, what he did with a team that we couldn't even explain it. Like, we couldn't even explain how they were winning baseball games at all. Like, we were racking our brains to try to figure that out. I look at the Rays. I mean, this is still a really good team. I mean, you look at Brandon Lau, he hit 40 jacks, 39, just about. Austin Meadows quietly drives in 106 runs. I mean, Joey Wendell had a really good year. Then they go get Nelson Cruz at the deadline. He wasn't the guy that you were hoping, but he was still pretty darn productive. Mike Zunino has the best season of his career. I mean, they had some really talented players. Obviously, Randy Arozarena was back to like superstar in the second half too. I think the pitching was a little bit suspect at times. Obviously, that was a lot to overcome, but an absolute stable of a bullpen. McClanahan stepped up. I just think that was a good team and a really well-built team. I think Cash continues to do a good job. But I think where the Mariners ended up, and I think the storylines with it too, as Jack alluded to, I find it hard to go anywhere else, especially managing the young guys too, like Jared Kelenic, rolling him out there every single day as he struggles. They managed a lot of their own injury issues too. Dylan Moore, who was supposed to be a main piece for them, really struggled. They still traded away other guys too. I was really amazed that they were able to hang in there, and you got to give credit to Scott Servais.
Can I say one thing before you go, Jack? 100 games in the AL East. A big accomplishment facing those teams every single day.
Yeah.
Mariners didn't make the playoffs. Just what it is. He did a
Yeah.
great job with what he had, but they didn't make the playoffs.
This was a World Series team a year ago.
Yeah.
What were the Mariners?
In 2020, though.
You ready for me?
Yes.
I think that Eric Neander was the runaway AL Executive of the Year, like runaway. But I think Scott Service was the best leader of men in the American League. I think the roster construction for the Rays, kind of, dovetailing off Aram's point, like that was perfect.
I didn't even mention Wander either.
Right. I mean, like Eric Neander aced the 2021 season, but Scott Service was dealt a C- hand and turned it into a B+ if A's get into the postseason. Like he did such a good job of rallying the troops. There's something to be said about that. No expected stat is going to tell you about leading men, but Scott Service led men this year. And it was really cool to see. And you're right, rolling out a struggling Kelnick, using Taylor Trammell when it was best fit for that. They had no Kyle Lewis and they won 90 games.
I also just I think we're, and not intentionally, but almost devaluing this Mariners roster as if he just dragged a bunch of nobodies to a wild card when he didn't. I won't sit here and say that. I think similar to the Rays, they weren't as talented as the Rays. I mean, but from top to bottom, they don't have that many weaknesses. They had pretty good starting pitching. Their offense was pretty good this year. They were a good defensive team and they had a good bullpen.
But before the year, you'd point to a lot of these strong suits and say they've got a weakness here, 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 here.
Also, they didn't
think the Rays were going to win the division.
Thought it was possible.
Did we all think that? Did we all think that they were going to win 100 games? Let's look back at the tape and let's talk about it, because I remember we were looking at this Rays roster and then they lose their two best starting pitchers. And now, I mean, we can we give the same argument to the same teams when they're doing similar things?
I think when you look at the Mariners, dude, they didn't even rank in the top 15, I think, in any team category. That's enough for me in itself. I mean, the Rays were...
But they probably didn't rank in the bottom 10 of anything either.
I bet you they did. I bet you they did. They weren't good. They were bottom in batting average, bottom in runs driven in, bottom in just about every major offensive category other than there were some cherry pick stats like late and close or whatever, and certain little things like that. But I think that kind of ties into manager stuff as well. The Rays were one of the best home run hitting teams in baseball, one of the best bullpens in baseball. And obviously they were ranked around the top of the league in ERA as well. I mean,
we think that they were going to lead the league in home runs.
I mean,
no,
did
I will
Kevin
not
Cash
take
hit the home runs? That defeats the point. Like Kevin Cash didn't go up there and slug homers. He's not the hitting coach. This is
That's why
thing.
This conversation is tough, because we don't know exactly what they did.
I know he didn't help them hit homers. I know that.
Are you sure?
Yes, positive. I know that the Mariners were at the bottom of the league in almost every team category and still won 90 games. A coach transcends that, or a manager transcends that. The Rays were one of the better teams in baseball. They exceeded our expectations by performance with their players. But I think you look at the Rays or the Mariners lineup, like nobody did that well. I mean, their most productive player was Kyle Seager, who hit 212.
Ty France was a beast.
Ty France was great. He was great. But, that's a guy that hit 18 home runs and drove in 73. Like, he was really good. I love Ty France. But, I mean, that's your main guy. Mitch Haniger. I freaking love Mitch Haniger. That's probably your best player this year. It was Mitch Haniger. That's pretty crazy.
I just love how heated we got for the AL Manager of the Year. Like, we've got so much more to go through.
Yeah, let's go to NL Manager.
I'll move on. I'll let it go.
Let's go to NL Manager of the Year. Craig Counsell with the Milwaukee Brewers is our first nominee. 2021 was Milwaukee's second division title in the last 3 full seasons, and their 4th straight full season finish within the top 2 in the NL Central. Counsell pushed every right button with the least talented offense to appear in the postseason this year, and he oversaw the second best starting rotation in baseball, and I'll stand by that. Gabe Kapler is the second option. Kapler's 2 years in Philly, 80 and 82, 81 and 81. His first year in San Francisco, 29 and 31. In 2021, he goes 107 and 55. He just managed the best team in baseball, and he was more hands-on than any other manager at the highest level of this sport when it came to in-game substitutions. He helped foster an environment that produced breakout seasons from Darren Ruff and Lamont Wade, and a return to glory for Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, and Evan Longoria. But let's shout out his help before we move on to Mike Shildt. There were 16 people on the Giants coaching staff this year. My favorite positions on the coaching staff: the quality assurance coach, the director of pitching, which was separate from the pitching coach, and then you had a hitting coach, an assistant hitting coach, and a director of hitting / assistant hitting coach. And then you got Mike Shildt. The fundamental disagreements apparently didn't hinder Mike Shildt enough when the Cardinals stood on their heads to surge themselves into an NL wildcard spot with a 17-game win streak. That win streak, by the way, the longest in the National League since 1937. He also went to bat for his guys. Don't get me started on Giovanni Gallegos. This feels like a Dwayne Casey situation with the Toronto Raptors. Like, no matter how good you are, you're not who John Mozeliak wants at the helm. So your three nominees are Mike Shildt, Gabe Kapler, and Craig Counsell.
I love how Jack loads these intros so much. You know, exactly,
I love them.
You know exactly who his guy is by the way he does the intro.
I mean,
I can already tell you how he power ranks his guys. Tell me if I'm wrong. Number 1, your winner is going to be Kapler. Then number 2 is Shildt, and then number 3 is Counsell.
How did you know, Aram?
I also think it's Kapler in a runaway 107 wins.
Yeah.
They came into the season with a goddamn win projection of 72.5. And they won 107 games.
Yeah.
Gabe Kapler. And I love Craig Counsell, though. Love Mike Shildt. Gabe Kapler in a runaway.
I love Mike Shildt, but I don't think he's going to become the first manager to win Manager of the Year the season he was fired, since Joe Girardi in 2006. Or 2008, excuse me, or it was 6. It was one of those 2 years. Regardless, with the Marlins, super good idea to fire your coach as he wins, Manager of the Year. That was great. I think it happened one other.
The Yankees.
Yep, of course he did. And then there was one other occasion with the Orioles like 30 years ago. Crazy that he's that this happened. But Shildt, he really helped push that team. And I think he should deserve more consideration than people think. I very well think he finishes second. But yeah, you got to give it to Kapler. So much mixing and matching with this team. They've got 10 hitters, basically. And he had to figure out when to go to who. And he did it right. He fully did it right. So I'm all in on Kapler.
Did you just hear Aram shit on me for positioning it to be Kapler 1, Shildt 2, Counsell 3?
I wasn't shitting on you.
It goes Kapler 1, Shildt 2.
I wasn't. I wasn't shitting on you. I would
say Counsell over Shildt, personally.
Ooh,
why?
Contrarian.
Why? More wins. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Your favorite stat hits?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't know. Quite frankly, I was like, I'm gonna
Jack Flaherty
and runaway. I didn't really think about the difference between Shildt and Counsell, quite frankly, because it's Kapler so far in a runaway, similar to the way we'll see our AL MVP is just in a runaway.
Yeah.
So should we break into the frickin' Rookie of the Years?
Let's go. AL Rookie of the Year. Are you feeling Randy, baby? Randy Arozarena led all rookies in hits. He led AL rookies in doubles. He was one of 8 rookies in Major League Baseball with 20 bombs. He was second among them with 20 stolen bases and is hitting .354 with a .436 OBP and an OPS at 1,200 in 29 career postseason games. Wander Franco with the Rays in 70 games in his maiden season during the regular season. Wander hit .288 with an .810 OPS, 7 bombs, 39 stakes, a 127 WRC plus, and a 12% strikeout rate, 38% hard hit rate, and he showed off solid defense and a cannon for an arm. And then Luis Garcia. Garcia was 3rd among AL rookies in ERA, but he exceeded Shane McClanahan's innings total by 30 and Alek Manoah's by 40. Those were the 2 guys in front of him. Garcia was the strikeout leader among rookies, more than Trevor Rogers, more than Tarek Skubal, more than Tristan McKenzie. When Lance McCullers went down in Game 1 of the ALDS, Garcia's postseason role increased. He was hot, and cold, but he did the job.
It's Randy, but I don't really want it to be Randy. I want it to be Wander because Wander is the better player. But Randy did have a good season, and you give it to the best quote unquote rookie, even though he's a veteran at this point, considering his playoff acumen. I'm going Randy Rosarena. He just had the best year of any rookie. And when you look at the totality of the season, I think it's almost kind of obvious, even though I think Luis Garcia had a great year. I think Randy Rosarena just kind of won it outright.
I will say this before you go, Aram. What sucks about Rookie of the Year, and the Rookie of the Year award is different than Manager of the Year and Cy Young and MVP because it is a situational award.
Yeah.
Because if Wander Franco was up for 150 games,
he'd win.
He'd win in a landslide. It might be unanimous.
If he didn't pull his hammy, he probably wins. He would have had like 95, 100 games around, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, I think he wins it.
Then we're talking about him probably winning it. So it's tough. I will say a Rosarena too, something that really helps his case. I don't even know if he needed it, but his defense improved so much. I mean, he went from massive liability to actually an okay defender out there. That definitely was a really impressive thing to see, which would probably go more towards most improved, but a rookie can't win most improved, right? So it's weird. It's weird. A lot of it goes into just the bizarre 2020, which is unfortunate. I mean, we have Ian Anderson on the other side of things with a little bit of a weird situation, but the fact that a Rosarena's going on 27 also just makes it bizarre. Yeah. He's the guy that wins it. I mean, his second half, like I said, was spectacular. He had a 2020 season. It's just a weird circumstance where the old guy is going to win it, but Wander, we know will have the better career.
Yeah. I'm team Randy.
I do love Randy. I mean, Randy is a really good player. Like we're comparing him to Wander Franco, who could become one of the best shortstops in baseball, one of the best overall players. So it's not necessarily fair to Randy to just kind of shit on him, but he did have a really good year and he is a really good player.
I think Wander Franco's floor is Ozzie Smith's glove with Ted Williams' bat.
That's his floor?
Yeah, that's his floor.
And that'll do it for today's episode.
That's worst case scenario.
All right. NL Rookie of the Year?
NL Rookie of the Year.
Dylan Carlson was second among NL rookies in WAR, only to Jonathan India. He put up a 113 WRC plus in 149 games with a contending and playoff securing Cardinals team. He started hot, he stayed relatively warm, and he was a consistent piece for the Cards all year long. Jonathan India led NL rookies in games played, plate appearances, WAR, doubles, RBIs, walks, on base percentage. He was second in OPS, second in WRC plus, second in hits, second in home runs, and second in stolen bases. And then Trevor Rogers had a 2.64 ERA across 25 starts. That led rookies by more than half a run. If he qualified, that clip would be the fifth best in baseball, nestled between Brandon Woodruff and ahead of Zach frickin' Wheeler. Problem is, he was 30 innings short of qualifying. In 133 innings of work, he had a 29% strikeout rate and an 8% walk rate. Trevor Rogers, Jonathan India, Dylan Carlson, Peter.
Can Aram go first?
Yeah, Aram.
I want Aram to talk about Trevor Rogers.
Yeah.
Look, listen. Trevor Rogers had as good of a year, I think, as he could possibly have had. Unfortunate circumstances that he had to deal with, family issues and missed a significant amount of time. I think if he gets 5 more starts under his belt and those numbers were about the same, he would have qualified. You're going to have a really hard time making a case against Trevor Rogers, top 6 in ERA in the National League, which was loaded with arms this year, to not be Rookie of the Year. But I think when we talk about it, how it's circumstantial and stuff like that as well, batting leadoff for a team that was in the hunt for a majority of the year and to be as consistent as Jonathan India was, to get on base for a majority of the year at a 400 clip, then finish in the high 300s. Yes, the defense is not great, but I think when you're playing in such a position of importance like Jonathan India did for this Reds team, I got to give it to him. But I will say he's lucky that Trevor Rogers didn't have 5 more starts under his belt, because I think Trevor Rogers would have won it if that were the case.
And I also think it's Jonathan India's award, to lose. But I just have a question. Jonathan India in college, wasn't a second baseman, if I'm not mistaken. So he's actually had to, third baseman. So he's had to kind of learn this new position. And he's such a good athlete. And you could tell that he's so cerebral as well. I just feel like he's going to figure it out and only get better. I'm very excited for what Jonathan India is going to bring to the table. But I also Aram, you know this. I'm a big fan of Trevor Rogers. I think he will actually end up having the better career than Jonathan India.
Totally.
I'm willing to say that right now. I think Trevor Rogers is a future ace in this league. But I think Jonathan India, when you look back at 2021, he won the award.
Yeah, he just did it. He just did it all, and he was consistent.
Yeah, what I love about India is you're right. He was a third baseman at Florida. He changed his body and he changed his game too. Speed really wasn't his game at Florida. Speed is part of his game now with the Reds, which is interesting. But I do agree that Trevor Rogers is going to be the better player. I'm writing in Frank Schwindel as my NL Rookie of the Year. Kidding, you know where I'm
kidding, yeah. Well, can we talk about the fact that freaking Jack McMullen called plus 4,000? Check episode 2 of the Just Baseball show. Cha-ching! Plus 4,000 for Jonathan India. Jack McMullen, stand up. Well, you don't have to.
Should I go to the back of this room? I did this before we started.
For anyone looking on YouTube, it looks so
Aram,
weird.
you ready for this?
Just did the podcast. I'm just back there.
Why does that look so weird?
It looks like he's in
he looks like superimposed.
He just looks like he's in one of those rooms. I'm trying to think of those deception type rooms.
Yeah.
Where it's like
the room I'm in is actually built on a slant.
Yeah.
It looks actually superimposed. Wow. What are you? Is your camera a fisheye?
No, it's actually not a fisheye. I couldn't tell you why that was the case, Aram, to be totally honest.
Okay.
National League. Cy Young.
AL Cy Young. I've been going AL then NL.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Do you want to go NL for? I actually think NL Cy Young is a lot more fun than AL Cy Young.
I think both are really good.
Yeah, both are fun. AL Cy Young. Let's start with Garrett Cole, who led the American League in wins and strikeout rates, second in total strikeouts. He was third in the American League in ERA behind Robbie Ray and Lance McCullers. He was fourth in the AL in innings pitched. I think we should restructure the pitching triple crown. So instead of wins, ERA, strikeouts, I'm a proponent of it being innings pitched, ERA, and strikeouts. And if that's the case, Robbie Ray won the pitching triple crown. Aram, you're shaking your head.
Should be ex-Woba, and Bacon, and ex-Wobacon, yeah, and FIP.
Yes,
but go proceed.
Wait, just XFIP.
XFIP, not FIP. XFIP.
I don't want any numbers that happened. I only want expected.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But if that's the case, if I go with my, brick and mortar pitching triple crown with innings pitched, ERA, and strikeouts, Robbie Ray won it. Ugh, that was hard. Robbie Ray won it. He led all of baseball in strikeouts. He led the AL in pitching WAR, and he was second in the AL with a 32% strikeout rate. And then Lance Lynn, hindered by injuries, but he was a workhorse, and he was as close to a guaranteed 8 innings as Major League Baseball had this year. He doesn't necessarily have the numbers to back up that case, but for the most part, this was a 2-horse race.
Peter, it's closer to home for you. Let's hear you go first.
Garrett Cole should win this award.
Correct.
Garrett Cole should win the American League Cy Young. I'm going to tell you why.
No, he's
ERA,
right.
Earned runs allowed. Makes sense. Robbie Ray did a little bit better of a job this year. But if we're looking at WAR, and in terms of baseball reference WAR and Fangraphs WAR, they seem to be a little bit different. It seems like Fangraphs favors a lot of the, savant stuff, a lot of those type numbers. And at least on Fangraphs, Cole did have a higher WAR. But on Baseball Reference, Robbie Ray had the higher WAR. So that's kind of interesting. But when we look at strikeouts, walks, even home runs allowed, FIP, xFIP, Garrett Cole struck out more batters. He walked less batters. He gave up less home runs per 9 innings. He had a better FIP. And the xFIP is very close, which, say what you want about xFIP. But even in terms of hard contact, Robbie Ray gave up average exit velocity of 90.4 miles an hour, while Garrett Cole was at 88.7. So Robbie Ray gave up harder average contact. He also had a higher hard hit rate as well, 43% for Robbie Ray to 38% for Garrett Cole. So when you go a little bit deeper
into the advanced
and
stat.
we're going a little bit deeper, Garrett Cole is your American League Cy Young Award winner, but it is close. I do think it's close, but I think Garrett Cole is the winner.
Yeah. So Fangraphs WAR is FIP based. So that's why, his FIP being better helps boost that WAR. But I think that's a really important stat when we're looking at Cy Young. I think XFIP, when we're talking about players and their value and stuff, is a really important contextualizer. But I don't care about expected stats when we're giving an award out for what you did. But FIP, I think, is important because we're talking about what this guy did if you try to eliminate the defense behind him. I think it's a good reference point. And Cole was fantastic in that regard. Obviously, he had some issues with his catcher. That's why he has a custom catcher a lot of the time. But I just think what Cole did overall this year, I think it's interesting too, because all the finalists had blow up starts down the stretch, which was funny because I think if Cole doesn't have a couple bad starts at the end there, he takes it because Ray had some bad starts at the end. Regardless, on a macro scale, I think Cole had some of those big, iconic's a big word, but relative to 2021, some big time cojones starts that really helped, catapult the Yankees. He was a true embodiment of an ace. And I do think that Robbie Ray gave up a lot of loud contacts and got away with it a little bit. I still think that he had more blowups. I like Garrett Cole on a full season scale. Yes, you had the big strikeout numbers from Ray, but you still had pretty close K numbers from Cole. And then everything else across the board was more consistent. Garrett Cole's the guy for me. And I think it's honestly pretty more clear for Garrett Cole in the AL than the NL situation in terms of Cy Young.
Yeah, I think Robbie Ray wins the tight pants battle. He showed off those hammies and that absolute peach of an ass. Now, having said that, I think ERA matters. I think strikeouts matter. I do think Garrett Cole should win the Cy Young.
But if we're talking strikeouts per 9, Garrett Cole was literally striking out more batters per 9 innings than Robbie Ray.
Yeah, and he had a higher strikeout rate too. Here's why I lean Cole. I think there is some value in being valuable. I think Robbie Ray put together the season with the better numbers. And I think when you look at it from a macro scale, Robbie Ray had the better year than Garrett Cole. I think Robbie Ray is going to win the Cy Young. But if I had a ballot, I would vote for Garrett Cole because if I'm running Garrett Cole or Robbie Ray out on August 1st or June 10th or September 29th, I'm running Garrett Cole out there instead of Robbie Ray, just based on how I know he can overcome bad starts the game prior, and my faith in just his stuff and his makeup. So I think Garrett Cole should win the Cy Young. I don't think he's going to win the Cy Young.
I also kind of feel like Robbie Ray will win the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Because you look at results-based stuff, and that matters to a lot of people. And it matters to me, and it matters to us. And Robbie Ray had some better results.
Seriously, when you look at innings, ERA, and strikeouts, it's Ray. It's hard to get over.
Especially for the voters who value that maybe more than we do.
Yep.
I still think Cole is going to get it.
You think Cole will win it?
I think Cole will win it.
I hope you're right, because I hope we're right.
NL Cy Young, these guys are freaks, like beasts. Corbin Burns struck out 36% of the hitters that he saw. Max Scherzer was the best deadline acquisition ever. He had a sub-2 ERA with the Dodgers. I mean, he was looking like he could go sub-1 with the Dodgers across 10 starts. And then Zach Wheeler was the king of durability this year. 1 of 4 pitchers north of 200 innings, and he had north of 200 strikeouts. Zach Wheeler, Max Scherzer, and Corbin Burns.
I wrote a whole piece on this thing. So
yeah, you go first, Aram.
Yeah, I wrote a whole piece on this because I thought it was so intriguing, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this deep dive anyways, so I might as well write something on it. And, I look at it like this. The big drawback, I guess. The only thing that's holding Corbin Burnes back from winning this award is his volume, right? Because you look at the FIP, 1.63. I don't even know the last time we've seen a 1.63 FIP. I don't care that it's 167 innings. Like, I don't know the last time we've seen that. 2.43 ERA literally tells us that he was unlucky. Like, he could have even been better, and he still already led the league in ERA. That's insane. Then the whip sub 1. Yes, Scherzer had a 0.86 whip. That's also fantastic, but only 12 more innings from Scherzer. So it's not like it's enough to really differentiate. We talk about the strikeout rate. That's where Corbin Burnes is on a different level, and nobody's even in that vicinity. Wheeler has the volume. Scherzer is kind of in the middle with the volume, and then Burnes has the numbers. What really makes me go with Burnes here, and I said it in the piece that I wrote, and I'm actually going to reshare it on my personal Twitter because I think it's relevant again, obviously, but the Blake Snell precedent, which is when Blake Snell won the Cy Young in 2018. He won that award despite throwing much less innings than the other two finalists, Justin Verlander and Corey Kluber. A lot of people say that Verlander should have won it that year, but he didn't. And it was Blake Snell because he had the most impressive ERA at 1.89, which was just something we hadn't seen in a while. And he took it home. But he had 180 innings versus Verlander's 214 versus Kluber's 215. I think we're going to see a similar thing there with the Blake Snell precedent. We're going to ignore the fact that it was 167 innings because it's only 12 less than Max Scherzer. And I think Wheeler's numbers are too far off. I'm giving it to Burnes. He's got a perfect little sweet spot here between just not quite too few to have Scherzer get the edge and way better numbers than Wheeler. He's going to take it home.
And just to tie a bow on that, I mean, Aram, you went through basically everything I was going to say and more. With Corbin Burnes, you can't dock him just because the Brewers used him in this way. And it's also in a season where only 4 pitchers threw 200 innings. So he's not 167 inning Corbin Burnes going up against 230 inning Max Scherzer and 240 inning Zach Wheeler. And then we're trying to decipher, was he really more valuable in those innings? But since it's so close, the 12 inning difference, I think Wheeler finishes third here. And I think it's Max Scherzer, Corbin Burnes. Like I said, if Max Scherzer had 230 innings, we're having a different discussion. And I think if he had done that with the same numbers, I would give it to Max Scherzer. But who was the best pitcher in their innings this year? That's Corbin Burnes, and that's my pick.
Yeah, this race, like, to be totally honest, I could still be convinced that Walker Buehler could win the Cy Young. Like,
kind of me too.
it was a 4-horse race. It feels like those years where the Heisman committee invites 5 guys to New York City instead of 3. That was how deep the National League pitching stable was.
Really was.
To be honest, I probably would have voted for Walker Buehler if I had a vote. I really, really, really value durability. And I really value Zach Wheeler just tossing the Phillies on his shoulders, along with a guy that we're going to talk about with the NL MVP. Like, that was 2 guys carrying the Phillies to really close to the playoff conversation there. So I want to give Zach Wheeler a little bit of credit before I say that Corbin Burnes should win the Cy Young. Because Zach Wheeler, what he did was really cool. I mean, he was one of those 4 guys with 200 innings of work. But Corbin Burnes and his 98-mile-an-hour backdoor cutter, like, how can you watch that and not want to hand him the Cy Young in May? Like, I wanted to hand him the Cy Young in May because that was so cool.
And I also think it's really important to compare them to their peers, right? Like, of course, 167 innings seems light, but in 2018, 22 players tossed at least 190 innings, excuse me. This year, only 7 pitchers exceeded the 190 inning threshold. So I think we have to move the goalpost a little bit in terms of what is an actual workload for a starting pitcher. It's still light, but subjectively, it's not as bad. The other thing that really stands out to me about Corbin Burnes is that he led the league in home runs per 9 innings, pitching in a bandbox that is American Family Field. That is just kind of the cherry on top for me. It's just so impressive what he was able to do this year.
You can still call it Miller Park. It's fine.
Thank goodness.
Allow the least amount of home runs in a park like that per 9 innings is so impressive.
I think he would have done it in Williamsport.
AL MVP, we ready?
AL MVP.
This, I think, is a runaway. Vladdy Jr. had one of the best seasons in recent memory at the plate. He was absolutely incredible. I don't even need to dive into the numbers here. We can if you want, but I mean, this guy just flat out mashed all the time. Shohei Ohtani was not far behind. And oh, by the way, he was a pretty freaking good pitcher. And then Marcus Semien showed up. So make sure you wave to Marcus Semien at the MVP awards.
Shohei Ohtani had a 3.18 ERA. He hit over 40 home runs. He stole over 20 bases. He's one of the fastest players in baseball. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And he finished 6th this year out of all hitters in WRC plus, which I'm really coming to. It's not the end all be all stat for hitters, but WRC plus really is my favorite stat when evaluating a hitter. And you'll see that in the NL MVP debate. People were saying this is not one of the best seasons that maybe Barry Bonds when he hit 73.
Who's saying this? Who are you listening to?
The haters.
I'm listening to the haters. This was the greatest season I've ever seen. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was the greatest season of all time in Major League Baseball history. What we saw was not from a human being, but from a spaceship. Because you aren't supposed to do that. Remember the Brendan McKay stories? We saw him coming from Louisville, and he still might hit and pitch. But we've been hearing about these guys. They never pan out. This guy did it at the highest level on both sides while being the fastest. I mean, I had Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to lead the league in home runs this year at plus 4,400. Shohei Ohtani is the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, he's the MVP. I mean, he's minus 5,000 for a good reason. Peter's got it all. I mean, the guy did things that we haven't seen done. The end of story. And he did them insanely well, other than win the Derby.
What takes me over the top.
Other than the Derby.
That he's stealing bases.
Yeah. And he's nice by all accounts. He's a nice guy. Does it all.
I keep bringing this up. Buck Showalter said early 2010s, I want to say, maybe, mid 2010s, once Manny Machado kind of hit his stride. He said, we are in the golden age of baseball. Guys are throwing the ball harder than ever before. They're hitting the ball farther than ever before. They are running the bases quicker than ever before. He literally just described Shohei Ohtani. Like he's one of the fastest guys. He's one of the strongest guys, and he's one of the hardest throwers. So Shohei's
handsome. And he's handsome.
He's super handsome. He's got crazy big biceps. Shout out Shohei.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with NL MVP.
Got boulder shoulders.
Yeah, he does.
Just saying.
NL MVP, Bryce Harper dragged the Phillies to contention. This guy got back to Bryce. Juan Soto is just a 22-year-old Ted Williams, and Fernando Tatis Jr. has captivated Major League Baseball. And when he steps on a baseball diamond, you have to turn the TV on and watch Fernando Tatis. Tatis, Harper, Soto.
I can go first. Crazy first on?
No, you go ahead, Peter.
With me, I think it's just so razor thin close between Juan Soto and Bryce Harper. Fernando Tatis Jr. had a fantastic season, and he will continue to have amazing seasons. I mean, so will the other guys. But I really do think that it's between Juan Soto and Bryce Harper. Do you pick the guy in Juan Soto who's a slightly better fielder, higher on base percentage, higher batting average, less strikeouts, more walks, more RBIs? Or do you take the guy who slugged more, had the higher OPS, had the higher WRC plus, had more home runs, had more doubles? It's almost, in my opinion, what you value as a hitter, and that should be your MVP vote, considering they're so close. Give me the guy who led in OPS, who led in WRC plus, led in home runs, led in slugging, led in doubles. Bryce Harper should be the National League MVP.
Yeah, You know, I was going back. I don't even remember when it was that I said this right on the TikTok and said Bryce Harper plus 800, hop on. And then I couldn't place it anywhere. I couldn't find a book that had it. And now they legalized betting, I think, kind of in New York. I don't understand. It gets legalized 3 times. And then they're like, okay, now you can bet. I don't understand it, but that's a separate topic. But the whole run that Bryce Harper went on was crazy. And it kind of preceded the Soto run. Because then, middle of Bryce Harper's insane second half, then Juan Soto goes crazy. And I've been, screaming from the rooftops, Bryce Harper is the MVP. And I still am going to say that Bryce Harper is the MVP. However, one of the things that makes it razor thin, like Peter said to me, is let's remember this was a decent lineup at the top end going into the year and in the first half of the season. Right, you had Trey Turner, you had Kyle Schwarber for protection. I know he was hurt, but up until that point, he was on that insane run. They had a decent lineup. Josh Bell was swinging it, and then all of a sudden, they burned that thing down, and it's just Juan Soto, and nobody wants to pitch to Juan Soto, and you have nobody else to worry about. What Alcides Escobar, who actually was decent, but let's be real, Yan Gomes, and he was better than ever. And I mean, when you're getting on base at a 560 clip over the last month of the season and in a 515 clip in the second half, I mean, that's just special stuff. It is really amazing what he did. But that said, Bryce Harper carrying a team that would have been probably way out of it if it weren't for him. I mean, watching him on the base paths, like just doing things, taking the extra bag, going balls to the wall for everything. I know he's not a great defender, but it just really was, like, anecdotally too, narrative wise. And let's be real, this is always about the narrative too.
Totally.
He carried that team and you could see it. When I went and covered the Mets Phillies game, I'm watching that guy and I'm like, he's doing everything he possibly could. He was like the one guy on the rec team that is just insanely good and just was doing everything besides pitch. He really was the most valuable player to his team. And I think that really just embodies why he's the guy.
You guys know this, but I believe that there is a direct correlation between OPS and MVP votes. Bryce Harper had an OPS over 1,000. Juan Soto was at 999.
Sorry.
That sucks for Juan Soto. I wish it was 1.000. But there were 2 guys in Major League Baseball with an OPS over 1,000 this year. It was Bryce Harper and it was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Juan Soto was the best player in the National League this year. But best and most valuable are different conversations.
I don't even know if he was the best.
I think he was the best.
He was good. So I'm not going to debate you. I mean, they were both.
Aram, what do you think? Who was the best player in the National League?
Probably Harper.
You think so?
No, seriously. I mean, it's like, what do you value?
I think Soto was the best player in the National League. I think if I could handpick anybody from the National League and take their 2021 season and guarantee it for my team in 2022, I'm taking Juan Soto.
Yeah, I guess if you put it that way,
if you put it that way,
I'm taking Juan Soto's season. Yeah, I'm taking the guy that gets on base more than half the time. Absolutely. Yeah, right. So I would say Juan Soto had the best individual season.
Right. But I think what Bryce Harper did for the Phillies, mentioned narrative. I think what Bryce Harper did for the Phillies and keeping them in relevancy for as long as he did, I think that was the most valuable effort in the National League. So I think Bryce gets my NL MVP vote.
My only thing, and we're talking about getting more on base, and yes, second half, oh my God, Juan Soto. But if we're really looking at, let's just look at the slash line. Juan Soto hit 313, Bryce Harper at 307. That's really close. On base percentage, Juan Soto had a 465 versus a 427 for Bryce Harper.
It's 40 points.
It's a lot.
But Bryce Harper had a 613 slugging compared to a 534 slugging. So that's 70 points.
That's a lot.
So if we're talking differences in the slash line, average and OBP, Harper was closer to Juan Soto. So everything that Juan Soto was the best at, Harper was 3 or 2. The power is where Juan Soto didn't hit 30 home runs. He slugged 534. The power wasn't as there. I mean, he's just walking every
He walked a ton. He walked a ton.
That's the thing. But I'm not saying that he doesn't have the power. I'm just saying the results of the season didn't result in a ton of power comparable to Bryce Harper. But Bryce Harper's on-base skills were pretty comparable to Juan Soto. That's where I feel it separates.
Well, here's the big thing too. And I think this is a really big reason why we see these stat lines or the way they are between the two. Juan Soto didn't have any pressure to win a ball game for his team. So he takes his walk and he goes to first base and they lose whatever. Their bullpen gives up 10 runs in the eighth. Bryce Harper, his offense was terrible by the down the stretch because, nobody could hit. Rhys Hoskins was out and Real Muto was kind of hot and cold and slowing down and it just wasn't great. But Bryce Harper would see maybe one pitch to hit a game and he would hit it out, like I was saying in the past. Whereas Soto, maybe he'll take a first strike. Like he doesn't have to hit that pitch. Harper was in swing mode at all times, still taking his walks. But if there was one pitch, the one mistake he'd see in his 4 at-bats, he was hitting it out. How many times did we see a Bryce Harper stat line in the box score that was like 1 for 2 with a home run and 3 walks? Like he legitimately was hitting the one pitch that he was getting a game. And to me, that's just MVP in itself. He was winning them games by himself. Soto, the cumulative stat line was better, but he didn't have the pressure to perform and to carry his team the way that Bryce Harper did.
That's what I'm saying. The cumulative stat line, I don't think was better. If we're talking about stat line, OPS adds like all of them up. He had more OPS, he had a higher OPS, and he had a higher WRC plus. I legit think that we're like not saying that Bryce Harper had the best offensive season. I think he had the best offensive season.
We're going to have a Hall of Fame ballot to discuss very soon.
Very fun. We're doing top 10s. We're doing free agency. We're doing ballots. We're doing everything. And we bring it to you, 4 days a week now? Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. So every link you possibly need is in our episode description. Go to justbaseball.com to read about Aram's trades. Good dialogue on those trades. Good dialogue on the manager of the year, rookie of the year, Cy Young, and MVP. Anything, Aram, to wrap up?
Pirates top 10 coming tomorrow or today, I guess, as people are listening. Top 10 prospects. Really love that system.
Peter?
Thank you, everybody.